Hi guys, this is the advisor and welcome back to the channel of upright men and women. By now, most of us would have heard of the tragic death of Stephan Trenchfield, the young businessman from St. Elizabeth. And this is just another tragic case of what can happen in Jamaica when you mix with the wrong crowd and decide to find nefarious ways of making money. Now, here is some things we need to know about young Stefan Trenchfield. He died at only age 26 when on Sunday morning, in the wee hours of the morning, we have to call it Saturday night to put it in context, he was traveling in a vehicle coming from up Constant Spring Road. And as he come down and approached the intersection with Dunrobin, right at that big stoplight there, the motorcycle with the two riders came down on him, and the pillion rider did not even get off the bike. The bike just stopped, and he turned the gun on automatic and just sprayed the vehicle. I hear that one empty magazine was actually found on the scene because the person who was shooting actually reloaded to a second magazine and kept firing. In all, I hear that it was about either 36 or 37 bullets were found in the vehicle. Because while it was not a rifle, it was a handgun, it was put on full auto, and he just sprayed the side of the car where the young man was sitting. And as you can see from this image, the bullet went all over this place because the person who was firing the gun didn't even know how to control the weapon while under full auto. But the question is, who was Stephan Trenchfield? And why did he get the bottom half of his face blown off that now he's going to give the mortician some trouble to put his jaw neatly enough so that he can be presented to mourners in a coffin soon? Well, Stefan came from a fairly well-to-do family. He doesn't come from a poor family. In fact, he come from a family of business people. And while I know the two businesses that I know they own in Santa Cruz, I don't want to get them involved here because I wouldn't like any repercussions to happen to any member of his family. But him grow up me a privileged youth, but he was not on the bad side. You know, he was just trendy and funny. He used to go to St. Elizabeth Technical High School. And everybody there loved Stefan. So then, what happened? Because obviously, from what I just said, if it is true, then Stefan did not need to run with the wrong crowd. But sometimes, despite one's better judgment, they decide to make easy money. And that was what reached Stephan Trenchfield. Stefan decided to make his own money, and because of that, he went into the scamming business. And as you know, you can't just take scamming money and just go put it in the bank because you have to can be able to show a legitimate source for your funds. And you can't just carry go put under your pillar. In Jamaica, the only people who can get away with piling it under them pillar is the Chinese. Why? Because the Chinese can show, say them have them grocery shop and them big wholesale shops and show that them out of them bed from 5 a.m. and show that them not going out of them bed back until reach home until after 9. So no matter how much money you see the Chinaman with, you have to give him credit, say him work for it. But these youths who now go do a 9 to 5, they would have a more difficult time proving where the money came from. So one of the things that they do is to open business. But you can't just open any business because you have to show a business that can actually make the type of money that you are putting in the bank. So, in order to wash his money and turn it into quote-unquote clean money, he opened a car dealership. But most of the cars that were sold were not really sold. They were simply moved around using fancy paperwork. Don't get me wrong, cars were sold legitimately. But others just changed their registration and the documents and move money around to show that money came into his business from such sales. Then those cars were actually passed on to other dealers to sell. So it was like a network. Now, in all of these transactions, you always have a middleman. Because scammers, when they go into legitimate businesses, they do not normally expose themselves by walking around here, walking around there, going to different dealerships, going to different businesses, and meeting different people to wash the money for them. They normally have a go-between. And Stefan's go-between was this man here. His name was Sanjay. His name is Sanjay Morgan. And Sanjay Morgan would take instructions from Stefan and move between the different businesses, mostly casinos or little game shops with poker boxes and poker machines. And he would go into these places, drop off a certain amount of money. Say he would drop off 100,000, for example, and they would hand him back 80,000 in so-called winnings. Then he would take his own 15% from that original 100,000 for himself, which is say 15,000. And then the other $65,000 now would go back to Stefan as clean money. He would do the same at car dealerships and so on, depends on the size of the money. Because as we know, one car can go for up to 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. It seemed that somebody from Montego Bay had actually given Stefan a sizable amount of money to wash for them. And that money over the past since October of last year had been trickling down like a few millions at a time to Sanjay Morgan for him to get it clean. The money was washed and the proceeds were returned to Stefan Trenchfield. However, he did not hand over these monies back to the people in St. James. And that was where the problem started. And part of this money was what he used to buy that 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLE. Unknown to him was that those people in St. James knew Sanjay, or they learned from a friend of a friend. It's a small world, At the time, Sanjay did not know that Stefan had not passed on those monies back to who he was supposed to have passed it on to. Because in truth and in fact, Stefan was keeping a very low profile, so they couldn't find him. They didn't know how to locate him. So by locating Sanjay, who Stefan was still doing business with, they decided to set up something for him in Kingston because they couldn't find him down on his turf in St. Elizabeth. He had been given a substantial sum. Sanjay had been given a substantial sum by Stefan to wash for him. And he was told to come to pick up the proceeds at a gaming lounge in the Sharpwood area. I know the gaming lounge, but I don't know Stefan's true connection to that lounge. So I don't want to bait up the people there. But he come there to pick up the funds to go back down to St. Elizabeth. And the men with the contact in St. James were actually waiting on him. So him pick up funds, and on the way down, as he leave from Sharpwood and coming down, because what he was going to do now was to come down Constant Spring Road, turn right on Dunrobin, head out along Washington Boulevard and then make the highway and then head straight out on the way down to St. Elizabeth. And that was the end of him. He didn't even get to turn onto Dunrobin. It has been said, that there's no honor among thieves. But let me tell you something. If you're even a thief, you have to trust your fellow thieves and you have to do everything by your fellow criminals because you one can't survive. You only go dead and dead fast. That's the main reason why criminals can't survive, because they don't watch each other's back. Them feel they can kill off everybody around them and still survive. But in a real life, it does not work like that. This is a very harsh lesson in reality, but we must use sleep and mark that. Young men, take heed. The worst thing you can do when you're a criminal is to break your fellow criminal foot. And that is one lesson that criminals will never learn. Thanks for watching. Like, share, leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.